Hello, this is Ebongeek. You're always welcome to join me in expanding your knowledge base. Comments are always welcome, and please subscribe. Hello, and we're back with Ebongeek45, and today is a great day to learn something. Now we have our Blinky set up, and of course we have been doing our Blinky for a while, and I know you guys are probably tired of the Blinky, but it's very important that you know how we got here. Now, if you missed any of the other tutorials, then I'm gonna explain it really quickly, but I'm not gonna explain it in detail because it's all in detail and very detailed as to how we got here. So we have our Uno, of course, and we actually went from the part where we're just using the Uno board for our LED to using our breadboard. And we're going to be using the breadboard for our experiments from now on, so get used to seeing the Uno board and the breadboard. Okay, just makes prototyping a lot easier. So at this point, to go over it quickly, we have our pin 12 for our power. Our power is our red cord here. So our pin 12 is going over to our power rail on our breadboard here. Our ground, which is, so you have your pin 12. Your next one up is pin 13. We do not want to mess with that one right now. We're done with that one. Next over from pin 13 is ground, GND. Okay, so we want that to be jumped over to the breadboard and put in our negative rail. If you have a breadboard somewhere like this, your power will be the red, your ground will be the blue. So, and we explained that in detail too. So to get going forward, once we have our power jumped over from the Uno board, then we have down from our power rail here, where our red cord is, we have our resistor, and it's not polarized. You could put any end into the power, but we jumped it over to, I got it in row 8. Okay, so we got to jump to row 8. Okay, now if you want to do exactly what I'm doing, you can. It really don't matter, just so you make sure that you keep things in line. So we have our resistor from the power rail to row 8. We have our ground from the ground rail to row 7. Okay, then once we jumped our power over, remember, as long as we're using our power line, for me right now is row 8. Our ground row is row 7. Okay, and our LED is connected on row 8 for our power side. Remember, the power side is the longest side. The negative is the shorter side. So our resistor jumped over our power to row 8. We have our positive leg of our LED plugged into row 8. We have our jumper jumped over from ground to row 7, and we have our negative leg plugged into row 7. Okay, that's simply put, that's how it is. Okay, so we should already know that. We should already be done. We should have already ran the Blinky program. If you have not, go to the previous tutorial and review it. So now we have our code for our pin 12 for our Blinky program. Okay, now what we want to do at this point is we want to play with the code a little bit, just to show you how it directly correlates to what you're coding. So if we go over to our Eclipse, okay, and what we're dealing with is, because what we want to do is we want to make our Blinky blink, but we want to make it blink not for 1 second. Let's try this one. Let's make it blink for 5 seconds. So what we'll do is we'll go down to our functions that we did. We have our own high function and our own low function. Remember, our own high function is to our power, which jumps over our 5 volts through to our resistor and onto our power rail. Okay, so we have 5 volts for on high. That's how it's getting a signal. I have 5 volts of power being jumped to the power leg of the LED. That's how it's getting its power. Now, our on low is ground, okay, and that's how it's getting that's how it's completing the circuit, okay. So ground is 0. It means nil. It means no, right? So we have our on high and our on low function. In order to change the amount of time that our blinky is blinking, can you guess how we would do that? Okay, now if you got the solution, great, because I'm going to show you how. What we would do is we would go to our delay in our function for our on high, first of all. And remember, 1 second is 1,000 milliseconds. So if we want it to be 5 seconds, we're going to change the 1 to 5 for 5,000 milliseconds. And that means 5 seconds. So just the same, let's go to our low. And we're going to change that to 5 seconds. And of course, so we would change our 1,000 milliseconds to 5. Okay? Now, to show you just how the code works, let's go ahead and verify our code. We should get no errors at this point. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to run our code. Let's go ahead and hit our arrow to the right. Okay, it says upload sketch. So let's upload it. It's going to build for a moment. You get the blinky, blinky, blinky. Now, did you notice the difference? You should. And even if you don't notice it on yours, you should be noticing it on mine. So, let me go ahead and shield this a little bit so you can see the light. I'm just using my hand to shield it. So, if you notice, it's blinking at a very much slower rate. Okay. Now let's show you something. What if we decided to leave our on high for 5 seconds, but what if we did our on low for 10 seconds? Well, let's say 15 just to simplify it. What do you think it might do? So for my on low, I'm just going to put a 1 in front of our 5, and it's going to show us 15,000. That means 15 milliseconds. Okay, so, and then we're going to verify again, and then we're going to upload it. And just think for a second, what is that going to do? Well, let's see. Let's upload it, and it's going. Now, do you see what it's doing? Now, it's going rather slow, but I'll tell you what it's doing. It's on high, meaning it stays on for 5 seconds. But our on low is 15 seconds. So what it's doing is it's blinking for 5 seconds, or the light stays on for 5 seconds. But then when the light goes out, it stays off for 15 seconds. Okay, so I'm hoping that you could see just how the code is actually changing the way our LED is running. Okay, so let's go back to our 1 millisecond. Because I'm guessing you can see, well, this is very slow. So let's go back to our 1 millisecond, and that's going to show you exactly how it did change. So I'm just going to change it back to 1000 milliseconds for our high, and then 1000 milliseconds for our low. Okay, and remember that's in our delay function and the params that we're changing it. So let's go ahead and verify it and upload it, and you should see the difference right away. Okay, got it? So I'm gonna leave you with just showing you how you could play a little bit with the delay, and just remember every 1000 milliseconds is actually a second. Okay, and that in that way you could play with the delay and just see how quickly you could change the code and how the LED is going to interact with what you're doing. So that's the end of this tutorial, and we're going to go ahead and work with some different code for our next tutorial, or different functions. So I'm going to go ahead and say have a great rest of your day. Happy building, happy coding. Bye-bye. I'm Ebongeek, and I hope that the information provided has been helpful to you. Please remember to subscribe. Happy building and happy coding.